Hello NFL fans, welcome to NFL Picks with Dave and Week 3 of the 2021 season. Today we're going to predict how things will play out this weekend. Last Thursday, the Panthers defeated the Texans with a score of 24-9. Don't look now, ladies and gentlemen, but the Sam Darnold-led Panthers are 3-0. Let's move on to Sunday's games. Our first Sunday matchup takes us to Kansas City, Missouri, where the Chiefs take on the Chargers. Kansas City last week lost to the Ravens with a score of 36-35. The Chargers, meanwhile, lost to the Cowboys with a score of 20-17. Since the Chiefs had a better week and put up more points, I'm picking them with a score of 38-21. Our next game is between the Bears and the Browns. Chicago last week defeated the Bengals with a score of 20-17. Cleveland, meanwhile, defeated the Houston Texans with a score of 31-21. Since this game is in Cleveland and the Browns scored more points, I'm picking them with a score of 35-30. Our next game is between the Colts and the Titans. Indianapolis last week lost to the Rams with a score of 27-24. Tennessee, meanwhile, defeated the Seahawks with a score of 33-30. This pick is not that hard. Since Tennessee improved greatly, I'm picking them with a score of 38-28, extending the Colts' losing streak this regular season to 3. Our next game takes us to Detroit, Michigan, where the Lions take on the Ravens. Baltimore last week staged another thrilling game by defeating the Kansas City Chiefs. Detroit, meanwhile, lost to the Packers with a score of 35-17. This pick is pretty easy. I'm picking the Ravens with a score of 34-13. This pick is the lock of the week. Our next game is between the Bengals and the Steelers. Cincinnati last week lost to the Bears, while Pittsburgh lost to the Raiders with a score of 26-17. This pick is surprisingly difficult. Since the Steelers are playing at home, I'm picking them with a score of 24-17. My next picks are the Cardinals over the Jaguars, 42-10, the Bills over Washington, 31-20, the Patriots over the Saints, 20-17, and the Giants over the Falcons, 27-20. Now let's move on to the later games. Our first late game takes us to Denver, Colorado, where the Broncos take on the New York Jets. The Jets last week lost to the Patriots, while the Broncos defeated the Jaguars with a score of 23-13. This pick is easy. I'm picking the Broncos with a score of 34-7. Our next game is between the Dolphins and the Raiders. Miami last week got crushed by the Bills with a score of 35-0, while the Raiders defeated the Steelers. Since the Raiders had a much better week, I'm picking them with a score of 27-17. Our next game is between the Buccaneers and the Rams, live from SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, California. Tampa Bay last week killed the Falcons with a score of 48-25, while the Rams defeated the Colts. This pick is a tough one. Since the Rams are playing at home and are on a roll, I'm picking them with a score of 35-34. Our final late game takes us to Minneapolis, Minnesota, where the Vikings will host the Seahawks. Seattle last week was defeated by the Titans, while the Vikings were defeated by the Cardinals, with a score of 34-33. This pick is a tough one. Since the Vikings are desperate for a win, I'm picking them with a score of 28-21. Now let's move on to the last two primetime games. Our first primetime game takes us to Santa Clara, California, where the 49ers will clash with the Green Bay Packers. The Packers last week defeated the Lions, while the 49ers defeated the Eagles with a score of 18-11. This pick is very tough. Since the Packers scored more points, I'm picking them with a score of 38-34 in another wild Sunday Night Football match. And now, the last pick of the week. It's the Cowboys taking on the Eagles. Philly last week lost to the 49ers, while the Cowboys defeated the Chargers. Since the Cowboys are playing at home and put up more points last week, I'm picking them with a score of 27-24. And that does it for today's episode. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to get the latest videos and posts I do. Also, be sure to follow this channel's Facebook page if you haven't already. Thanks again for watching and hope to see you again soon.